Well, it was a stink bomb against Notre Dame, but a clutch one against Cincinnati. And also on this quick hit, my tribute to a worthy adversary for the Orange. Well, Orange fans, you knew sooner or later it was bound to happen. I didn't expect us to go through this regular season undefeated, but I didn't think it was going to be against the Fighting Irish. And there were two things that really exacerbated this. Although he hadn't really played very many minutes, it's maybe time to say goodbye to Mookie Jones for the Orange. He was highly touted when he came to University Hill, but he never quite worked his way into the starting lineup. He decided to leave the team for quote-unquote personal reasons. Well, Mookie! I hope this wasn't the last hurrah, but it might be. And also, the academic issue, which has forced Fab Mello to sit out the last two games. And I just gotta wonder, didn't you dot the I's or cross the T's, Fab? Heck, we need you. 'Cause I will just say this, Saturday against Notre Dame, the Orange looked like a completely different team. Notre Dame took off on a run to start the game, and even though the Orange tried to scratch and claw their way back into the game, as I said, without Mello in there, this looked like a completely different team. There was no rebounding, plus also the Orange were throwing up bricks all night, especially to start the first half. I didn't hope they were going to build a house out there in Indiana with all those bricks. But they scratched and clawed, but Notre Dame just had too much. And Syracuse just laid a stink bomb against the Fighting Irish. And they let Cooley High Harmony, the center there for Notre Dame, have his way. Had Mello been there, it probably would have been a different story there in the paint. But whatever. We got to see the Notre Dame faithful rush the Joyce Center court. And the Joyce Center always has been a hornet's nest for whoever has gone in there to play the Fighting Irish. But the Orange fell from the ranks of the unbeaten, 67-58, which leaves only that small university there from around Kentucky, I think, Murray State, as the only undefeated team in Division I. Wouldn't it be something if the Racers can get through the regular season and go through the Ohio Valley Conference undefeated? Murray State could be a worthy opponent, but then critics will say, they haven't played anybody. They could be a sleeper. But the Orange did have to regroup after the debacle against Notre Dame. And they were going into another hornet's nest. At my cousin's restaurant, the bartender said I wouldn't want to be Syracuse's next opponent. Well, I wouldn't have wanted to have been Syracuse. They went into their second game without Mello, into the hornet's nest there in southern Ohio. The Bearcats are always pretty tough on their home court. And the way the Bearcats started out the game firing those threes, I thought it was going to be a repeat of Saturday night. But things settled down. And Syracuse, they're a scrappy bunch. Even without Mello in there, they scratched and clawed their way back into the game. And they made Mick Cronin, the coach of Cincinnati, look a lot like Kevin Cronin. But the thing is, REO Speedwagon wasn't on the court. It was Syracuse. And the thing is, they took it on the run against Cincinnati there in the second half. Boy, did the two seniors, Chris, Mary, and Joseph, and Scoop, Canna Jardine, pick up the thing for the Orange, especially Jardine with some clutch threes. And Syracuse's three-point shooting to start the game was awful, but then Jardine and Joseph hit a couple of threes. And also, who knew Christmas was going to arrive there in late January? This may have been like what happened last year when Bad Mello started to come alive late in the season last year. Christmas might start to be coming alive here late in the regular season for the Orange. He really stepped it up against the Bearcats, and he sent the Bearcats to a 60-53 loss, a clutch win by the Orange. And let's hope that we get Mello back from this academic issue, because coming into the Dome on Saturday, it's Roy Huggins and his West Virginia Mountaineers. West Virginia is always a tough opponent for the Orange. But I mean, in one way it was bittersweet to see the Orange fall from the ranks of the unbeaten. But you know, this team answered the critics and showed they can play with anybody. Syracuse may be number 4 now in the rankings, but don't give up on them. Syracuse is ready and raring to go for the rest of the regular season. And on this week's Quick Hits, I'm just got one long quick hit, and it's to a guy who was a worthy adversary for the Orange throughout his long tenure. He passed away on Sunday after his battle with cancer and all the battles he had in the last year. Joe Paterno, even though, he kind of coached the enemy. And I mean, Penn State is still, to me, the big enemy, or I should say adversary for the Orange on the gridiron, even though we've hardly played them in the last 25 years. Paterno, you were a class act. You changed college football. And I mean, college football, and everybody's better for have known you. And I mean, the last 10 weeks, I just hate to see what they did to your reputation. I mean, it seems as though it's guilty by association. And Sandusky was Paterno's defensive coordinator for 32 years. Then when all of this broke, it seems as though everybody turned their attention to Paterno. I mean, Paterno did say he did report it. The one thing is he could have followed up on it. But I mean, it didn't warrant the trustees giving him the boot. Because you know what, in my opinion, Paterno died of a broken heart. You take a man's dignity away, and I mean, it seems as though in a lot of cases, what does he have to live for? I mean, I'm just so disappointed with the trustees. They should have let Paterno retire on his own terms. And I mean, the trustees had the gall to issue that statement after he passed. We appreciate all that Paterno did for this, and we're sad and yada, yada, yada. How can you say that about what you did to him 10 weeks ago? If I had the time, even though I'm a Syracuse fan, what I'd like to do to those trustees? I'd like to take those words and stuff them up their noses. You took a man's dignity away, and pretty much he had a broken heart. But I mean, enough for the bad words. I want to remember the good things about him. We're going to miss you, Joe Paterno. Penn State and the rivalry is not going to be the same without you. Because, in the coming years, we will play Penn State a couple more times. I'm Ken Haas, and that's my story for this week. Rest in peace, Joe Pa.